TVR creators, you are the TVR universe, and I'm Dave from TVR Creators, and I bring you weekly value on building your brand here on YouTube. This is something I've been doing for weeks and weeks now, and we started this in May to bring you value. We are on a mission to make as many YouTubers' lives as easy as possible, and in today's show we've got loads of value. I'm going to be talking about some ideas for you and set up your own personal home studios, very simple ideas to begin with on how you can set up if you're just using a phone, to much later on if you want to be a bit more advanced or if you have a bit more space. So do not go anywhere, stick around and think about absolute value. Value. So the first thing you want to think about as a content creator is more and more people are using their phones to create videos. Some of the biggest YouTubers on this platform, on this amazing platform, have got literally, and this is no exaggeration, millions of subscribers by using just their phone. So do not feel pressured in any way to think, oh, you know, I need to get a brand new camera, or I need the most expensive light and all this sort of thing. It's all about something I'm learning more and more. It's really about your personality and how you make your videos. If you just have a person, no matter what you make your videos on, if it's gaming, cooking, sport, climbing mountains, whatever it is, if you make videos that you are passionate about and you have a personality that for whatever reason people just connect with or find interesting, and you bring your audience value, they will watch your content. So just remember that, ultimately bringing value, but remember the people, they just like you for who you are. Because something else I want you to think about just briefly before we start properly is I want you to remember that, you know, there are literally thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that probably make videos either similar to you or on the same type of topic. So bear that in mind. So you want to stand out in the crowd. So what I would highly recommend is, you know, just try and allow as much your personality to come out as possible, and people would dig that. And a little tip I would say, just maybe just tune it up just ever so slightly, be slightly louder, or just let out a bit more of your personality, and people will connect with you. So thinking about what I've just said, a lot of you are probably using your phone, and this is where I want to begin. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't seem to have a phone on me, which is not very helpful, so I'll just poke myself in the nose. But what I would highly recommend, if you're using your phone, these are some of the things I want you to think about. So if you just go to Cam 2, you can see here, probably just easier if I just point at the camera. This is a really old retro camera, but basically I want you to think, if you've got your phone, I want you to think tripod. Okay, so the first thing, if you do want to buy something, bear in mind what I just said. Don't feel pressured in thinking you have to buy anything, because you don't, but just for think of tripod. I probably should have had a phone set up in there, but it doesn't matter. So just think tripod. Think tripod. So yeah, so your tripod will be your number one friend. So think that, and you can get them on, you know, online, especially nowadays, for £10-15 or $10-15, wherever you are in the world. And that is not breaking the bank. And that's probably the first thing I would highly recommend, because there's nothing more annoying than trying to, you know, do all this business. And you know what? I've just realised that we don't have the lights. So let's bring on some value. Hey, let there be lights. Oh yes, let there be light. I had them on earlier. What are you doing, Dave? See, value right there. Live entertainment, live TV. Come on, Dave, sort it out. Value. And we get onto that later on in the show. So thinking about your phone then and your tripod, as I was saying here on Cam 2, I just realised what a numpty. Looks a bit more pink on this cam. I would highly recommend a tripod, because nothing worse than trying to, you know, hold your phone or balance it on books or whatever it is that you do. And a tripod will be your number one friend, especially if you're filming by yourself. If you have somebody with you, that is fine. And I would just highly recommend, you know, and that will be the first thing you buy. So, you know, and then from there you might want to think, right, I want to up my game, I want to up my value that I give to my audience. And I would then recommend, if not, you know, definitely recommend at some point getting yourself a microphone. Now, especially when I want you to think of microphones, the best example is over there, but I'm just going to use what I've got here. If you can see it, yeah, you can see it, that's cool. I would highly recommend, actually, if you've got a phone, maybe getting yourself like a little shotgun microphone. But something I want you to bear in mind is make sure you've got one of these windbreaks, because when you're filming outside, if you don't have one of them, you'll get a really annoying noise, which is highly irritating. And especially if you're using a camera, you can sit them on the top. But just bear in mind, you can actually get like little racks, little frames that clip on top of a tripod, where you can put your camera or your phone inside, and you can put a microphone on the side or on the top. You can have little lights clip on them, that sort of thing. And this is, you know, a very cheap way to start up your, you know, your home studio or wherever you're setting up, you know, when you're making your content for your YouTubers. And something else you want to think about, and these come with little windbreaks as well. And they're called lapel mics. I just call them clip-on mics just because it's easier. And just like you have in the news, you know, you just clip them on. And so if you can see that, so you see that. Let's see if you see it better in Cam 2. It doesn't really matter, but if you could just see that, so it just clips on like that. And you know, when you're watching the news, you probably see them getting white and black. Doesn't really matter. But I personally find actually, to get the best sound quality, think about your microphone again. Then you want it no closer than maybe a foot. Otherwise, it just goes really, like, if you can show on the actual mic, it goes a bit, hello everybody, and you might notice it might be a bit over loud, or it might just have a bit of a, I don't know, if that's the effect you're going for, then there's obviously nothing wrong with that, but just bear that in mind. But I would highly recommend no further than a foot away, just bear that in mind. And you're probably thinking, well, why you got all this cable then? Well, just bear with me. And just, if you're outside, you might want to make sure that you've got your windbreak on your microphone, because otherwise you'll get that really annoying whistle noise, and it's really hard to edit out. Now you can, with some of the more efficient editing softwares, you can, you know, edit it out in post, but it's just unnecessary effort. And I'm all about trying to make things as fast and efficient as possible. And, you know, why spend an hour trying to clean up your sound when you could have just put a windbreak on your microphone, got great sound, giving your audience great value. And something I want you to bear in mind is sound is half your video. So if you've not got the best camera in the world, or your phone isn't quite as good as it, you know, it could be, then if you've got really good sound, and again, these only cost like 10, 15 pounds or dollars. And that's just a great way to start. Now, everything I'm talking about today, there is links in the description, so check it out after this video if you want to go and check them out to get some value to start you off tonight. And the reason why it's got a cable, obviously you can get wired ones or wireless ones. Obviously wireless ones are more expensive, but it's all about what you can afford and you know, what you want to use. Now, the reason why I like these ones, and even using on my camera, I'm just going to put that down now, it's becoming like a snake, is because quite often I'll get myself a second tripod. I've got about 3 now, and I will have it clipped onto the top of one, and I have it just out of shot. So if you can imagine here, so if you know, so you can't sort of see it. So if you can see where this microphone is, I'll perhaps have the frame sort of here. The microphone will be here underneath me. And then from there, you know, it's not too close, not too far away. Because bear in mind, if your camera is like, as this is, you know, miles away, and your microphone is also miles away, then it'll be really, really quiet. And you might not be able to, you know, pick up the right sound. And obviously that will just ruin your video, and you don't want that. So bear that in mind. So when you're doing your home studio, you want your tripod and your phone. You think, hey, there's loads, but don't panic. You can quite easily just get a wireless clip-on mic that just plugs into your phone. You can have your phone on a tripod, like that. This is a slightly more professional one, more heavy duty, but you don't have to use them. To holding the 2 cameras today, I've got really cheap 10, 15 pound tripods holding my cameras, and I've had the one that's holding this camera. I've had this particular tripod now for years. It must be 17, 18 years or something ridiculous like that. And it's pretty much as I bought it. So just bear that in mind. Obviously, if you want something a bit more heavy duty, especially if you're buying a camera, personally, I just prefer to have my Canon M50 that I just can't resist. I love that camera, but we may talk more about that later, so don't go anywhere, you Canon fans. But I would highly recommend perhaps upgrading your tripod later. This is something we'll talk about a bit later on. If you just want something a bit more heavy duty, you know, if you've got maybe a bigger camera, especially if you've got a full-blown SLR type size camera, you know, if you've got a bigger lens on and that sort of thing. But to be honest, I've had my Canon M50 on my cheaper, lighter tripod and it's been fine, so bear that in mind. Now before we just carry on, let's have a look at tonight's value. Let's see who's about. We've got about 4 silent watchers, listeners, whatever they call yourselves. Welcome. If you've only just joined us, I'm Dave from TVR Creators and I make weekly YouTube tips how you build your brand. If that sounds interesting to you, subscribe now. And if you're getting value, smash that like button because I'm pumped up tonight to give you absolute value. Now I thought I'd do a little shout out. I'm going to do a shout out to everybody that is watching tonight. So let's just have a look. Now, none of them have commented, so I can't see who you are. So I'm just going to shout out some random names of people that I know will probably watch this. So Brad, if you're watching at some point, awesome. I'm going to say Perry, I love your stuff. Keep doing what you're doing. Lady Cuts and DJ Dubs and DJ Lady Cuts. Yep. Big shout out to you. I was watching your video on Facebook earlier. That was awesome. I really enjoyed that. It was quality. Brilliant. Eating haggis. I love it. I like haggis, by the way. And I call potatoes tatters because I'm a quarter Scottish. Anyway, hit the smash. Hit there. Blah, blah, blah. Smash. Hit. Whatever. Click that like button if you've got any Scottish in you. Who else will watch it? All our regular fans. Nadia, if you're watching. Ash, if you're watching, Poultry Patch, if you're watching, I had a great conversation with you earlier, and also a shout out to RPGS Games. Go check out their channel, and everyone I've talked about today, they all have YouTube channels. Go and check them out. If I missed anybody, I apologise. Phil as well, I know you sometimes watch these videos if you're watching it down the road. Anyway, anyone else, big massive thank you to everyone watching at the moment. We've got a lot to get through tonight, and I just want to say I hope you're getting value. This is what it's all about. Value. Let's go to cam 2 because that's just how I roll. Right, I'm just going to move some stuff out of the way. So just bear with me. Boom. So you're thinking about then you know, your setup. You're thinking about how you want to set up your home studio. This is something I want you to bear in mind. Now, something you might want to think about is backdrops. As you can see here, you can probably see it better on cam 1. I've got itchy eyesight. Hay fever must be kicking in. I've got a really nice backdrop. Now, over here is basically a curtain. And for you core fans, you probably already know this, but I'm always trying to up my game and add to my studio over time. I've basically used I'll tell you what I do with mine, and that will give you a few ideas. So at the moment, I use my spare room that I've turned into a studio. I've got loads of cameras and cables everywhere, and some of you may know I recently got a new computer to edit on. It's really much more faster. It's just really nice to edit on. I use it now obviously to do this live stream. And this backdrop here, so thinking of your home studio, this is literally just a bed cover, a double bed cover, and I just thought black just because it's just just sort of neutral or whatever, and it's just really cool. I'll talk about lights and stuff in a moment. So if you think about your setup, on the cheap scale, you might want to just get the biggest window in your house or wherever you live, caravan, shed, boats, canal boats, mansion, sky, wherever you live in, it doesn't matter. I would highly recommend perhaps the biggest window to begin with, but I would highly recommend getting yourself a softbox light, which I'm not using tonight just because my webcams don't like them for whatever reason. But I would highly recommend getting yourself at least 1 or 2 of them because they are brilliant and they will give your video absolute value, especially if you're recording on your phone or a camera, because they just give a really nice soft light that lenses just like and prefer, and they just make your videos, I found they just make your videos look so much more professional, especially if you're doing weekly content like I do on Tuesdays. So go and check out any of our Tuesdays videos because they will bring you value on all sorts of tips to do with video and YouTube. So just something to bear in mind. Now you can get smaller lights like these. These are like a little small multicolour lights. These come with different gels. As you can see, as you saw from the beginning, they turn on and off. They also go up and down. So check this out. So I can make it go down a bit like that. They also go up to as bright as you want. And they come with about, I think it's about 4 colours. I think it's like white, I think, or that might be the default. It comes with blue, red and amber. I think that's correct. And you can just slide them in and out. A bit like if you did drama at school and had all the studio lights, that sort of thing. But I will say they don't give off massive amounts, a lot of light. So I wouldn't recommend one of these as like your main light necessarily, especially if you want your video to look more professional. I'd highly recommend as your first light purchase to make sure it's a softbox light, because they just give really nice fill of light. And if you're wearing glasses like me, I'd highly recommend having one of these lights on either side of you, or at least one on one side. Otherwise you'll get a really annoying reflection in your lenses, and it's just really annoying when you're editing. I find it really annoying. It took me a long time to correct that and learn that trick. But also it's just annoying for your viewers. And going back to how we started this video, it's all about your viewers and giving them value and all this sort of stuff. So bear that in mind. Now, something else I want you to think about. So going from there then, so, think about your setup. So, you thought of you're still using your phone. You're still, you've then got yourself a tripod and a microphone. We've talked a little bit about lights, and there's loads of lights you could get. You could spend hundreds of pounds or dollars on all sorts of different lights. But I would highly recommend, as I've just said, I would personally just get a pair of softbox lights. They only cost about £50-60 or dollars, and that's not breaking the bank. But obviously it doesn't have to be your first thing. First thing is definitely a tripod and a microphone. So anyway, so if you've got a bit more space, if you like me, you've got a spare room or an attic or a basement, or or maybe even just a large corner of one of your larger rooms, or even if you haven't, you've got to remember, whatever the camera sees is the most important. So don't worry too much. If you've only got a little bit of space, you could just make the backdrop look interesting. Maybe have a few posters of things to do, whatever you're talking about. You could then think of objects. So if you're cooking, you might want to just film in your kitchen. It might just be easier to begin with. Obviously, I do a lot of content on cameras, so as you can see, I occasionally have cameras floating around in the background, trying to make it visually more interesting. And things I'm interested in, you might have noticed a few weeks ago, I had a random Roman helmet, just because that's just how I roll. I love anything to do with Rome. And maybe try and talking about your personality again, and sort of boosting up that connection you have with your audience, and really think about how you can connect. So if you're bringing out a bit of your personality, as well as objects or pictures of things, maybe as the backdrop, depending on what your video is about, just to make it look more visually interesting. It's not just you with a blank white wall behind you type of thing. Then perhaps you can have a few objects of things that sum you up, or things that you're interested in. That's why occasionally I'll throw in, like I said, a Roman helmet or something that does interest me. I'll just randomly put it somewhere, even if it's just subconsciously, because it just makes your videos look more interesting. And just bear in mind the square that your camera sees. So if you think of this one here, and then thinking of my setup. So, I've got my microphone, and I've purposely have left it because obviously it just seems to be the trend on live streams. You have your microphone shot. It doesn't seem to matter. It's like that radio feel. And I personally think it looks quite cool having my mic sat up there. I've now got 2 of these point lights, so you can see them here. So if you want to think how I do my setup at the moment, I have 1 or 2 lights. I sometimes use one of these to do the light if I want to make it a bit more spooky, or just trying to make it a little bit more visually interesting. Tonight, actually, I'm just using my house light, and because I have one of those energy saving lights, or bulbs, as most of us call them, but my theatre friend, who's no longer with us, would chop my head off for saying that. He goes, "No, they're not bulbs, they're lamps." So just for tonight, we'll call it a lamp. And I'm just using that just because it's just a sort of more normal light, and it's just easier. And as I said earlier, softbox light is fantastic on phones and cameras, but I find on laptops and on webcams, I find having less lights just seems to be more effective. So that's why sometimes I use one of these if I'm just using a webcam like I am on a live stream. You don't have to use webcams for live streams. If you've got a camera, you can use them. And you can also use your phone. You can just download an app and you can just connect it to OBS or Streamlabs and programs like that. It's something I am thinking about actually is possibly maybe starting to use something like Streamlabs, StreamYard even. So then I could perhaps have guests on this show. So one of you could be a guest if you're interested in that. We could perhaps do that in a future date. So sort of bear that in mind. You know, we'll see how it goes. So yeah. So and then the next thing you might want to think about, you know, and you're probably thinking, Dave, you barely mentioned cameras, and probably because I find, apart from obviously like a computer or something, I would find that a camera is probably one of the more expensive things you buy, and I really want you to bear in mind that you can really wait to the last minute, just because most of you probably have, you know, the newest iPhone or newest Samsung, blah blah blah, and most of you can take fantastic photos and videos on that, and because of that you probably don't need to rush to get a camera. But I personally, especially when I'm doing my weekly content, I prefer to have a proper camera because it's a separate from my phone, and it feels more professional, and it does up your game video and photography wise, and it just does look a bit better, especially for people that are, you know what to look for. And I would highly recommend the camera just happens this is the Canon M50. It's an absolutely amazing camera. If you're looking for something like this, I'd recommend either this, and I've written it down because I always forget, the Sony ZV-1. Links to both of these, as I said earlier, are in the description, and they are absolutely brilliant cameras. I love the Canon M50 because it's a mirrorless camera, which basically means it has no mirror, and they tend to be smaller, so if you don't want something too big, that's something to bear in mind. I love this because it has a flip screen, absolutely brilliant. If you want to see my proper review on it, I do have a video to this, so check it out on the channel. You can interchange the lenses, and some of you that probably know as much or more about cameras than me, you'll probably go, well, aren't mirrorless cameras a bit limited? And on the Sony, I don't think you can actually change the lens. And that is correct. And you can actually get an adapter for the Canon M50 or any small mirrorless camera, or for some of them anyway, where you can then connect your older lenses as long as it has the right connection. So bear that in mind. So then it opens you up to loads of lenses. And that's when you could be much more creative. So as you're getting better at making your videos, you can be far more creative, you know, visually, and you can get some really nice professional looking shots, and you get that nice blur effect that you can sort of do on a phone, and phones are getting better at it, but you still can't beat it if you've got a really good lens. And the kit lens that comes with the M50 is massively amazing. I would highly recommend it. This is a 15-45, and the film quality, if you want to see what it looks like just in HD, and it does do 4K as well, check out any of my weekly contents because I film with this. And you're probably thinking, and I had this, I think, a week or two ago, someone say, well, why aren't you using this? Well, it's just because I personally just find it easier to just use webcams, because you can just plug them in your computer and off you go. And then you're probably thinking, well, what about if I want to live stream in my studio? This is something perhaps we could talk about in another video in more depth. But I would highly recommend a half decent or fairly decent laptop or desktop. And actually, just like we were saying earlier, when you can do a lot of stuff on your phone, you can actually live stream off your phone now. And there's apps and programs you can use to do that with, especially with something like StreamYard. So just bear that in mind as well. So you don't have to have loads of equipment to make good content. It's only about your creativity, what you can do. Now, if you've only just joined us, I'm Dave from TVR Creators. I like to bring weekly value. I do weekly Tuesday videos where more bite-sized, when we go into certain details on video or tips on YouTube. I also do bite-sized videos, which I've just started doing, shorts videos at the weekend, which, you know, that pretty much sums up. And also in these live streams, we tend to go into more detail and try to bring even more value. If you want to support any of our videos or just the channel in general, watch any of our videos from start to the end, feel free to like and comment, ask your questions, and I'll do my absolute best to answer them as, you know, quickly and efficiently as possible. And feel free to start conversations, ask questions about ideas that you might like in your studio and stuff like that. So just bear that in mind. And also we have merch as well. Link to everything I've talked about, our merch included, is in the description. So feel free to check it out, and you can support the channel by buying one of our merch. So feel free to do so. I'm just going to see if there's anyone in the chat. So we've had, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so we've had 9 on the playback. That's pretty awesome. Value. Okay, I am going to do a brief after show today where I'm going to talk briefly a bit about my setup and that sort of thing. But apart from that, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you got value from today's live stream. You guys are the TVR universe, and as always, I hope you have a fantastic weekend, or whenever you're watching this. And ultimately, I want you to take something away. I want you to think of one thing that you need to work on. If it's thumbnails, camera angles, lighting, audio, editing, whatever it is, pick one thing, work on it, come back to me next week, and maybe just say if you've improved upon it. And we are 2 away from 300 subscribers. So if you know anybody that'd be interested in YouTube tips or video content creation, get them to subscribe and get them to join the TVR universe. I'll see you in the after show. And as always, guys, come on, let's do it together now. You guys rock! So thank you so much, and for those of you that are still in the chat, thank you so much for the silent listeners that have been watching today. Feel free to like this video if you got value from today's content, and ask your questions in the live feed, or if you watch this on the replay, put them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them, because I really do love hearing your feedback and just, responding into, the community here at TVR Creators. It's just a brilliant thing, and I get so inspired by watching some of, or if not all of your videos that watch my weekly content. So thank you again. My voice is starting to go, so I'm apologising now, because I do talk a lot in these live streams. Now, just briefly, I just thought I'll just talk about my setup here in the studio. So I have at the moment I just use one softbox light, which I do my weekly content. I have about 3 tripods. I tend to use, 1 or 2 of them on live streams, 1 or 2 of them on when I'm doing my weekly content, depending on what I'm doing. I have a nice sort of L-shaped backdrop at the moment, mixed with a curtain and a bed cover. It just gives that nice sort of studio feel, makes it feel more professional. Recently I've added some mini lights with different coloured gels, which as you saw earlier, I could turn on and off. It's just really cool, and I'm playing around with different colours. Just makes it interesting. I find my red t-shirt goes nicely with the black background. I've just recently bought. I don't know if you can see it on the other camera. No, sorry, you can't see it. Basically, I'll tell you what I might do actually. Let's steal cam 2. That's a steal cam 2. Can you see that? So if you can see, but just go back. Behind the scenes, why not? I just thought it was cool. So on my live streams then, I basically have a couple of lights that are set up here. I have the amazing microphone, the Zoom H1n. I think I've got that right. H1n, doesn't matter. The link is in the description. It's an absolutely brilliant microphone. I've used it for one of the films I made a year or 2 ago, and I've been using it on my live streams. It's a fantastic microphone, and if you're hearing the sound of it now, you can probably agree with that. It's a brilliant microphone. I use it every week. At the moment, you can see behind the scenes, I've got my setup here. I've got my value. I've got my keyboard and mouse, and that's just a TV that I use as the monitor. That's all the behind the scenes stuff. Under here, I've got my brand new computer, which is a Dell HPS, absolutely brilliant computer. Not long had it. It's not the most powerful computer in the world, but it's the most powerful computer I've ever had, and it's really good. I'll perhaps talk about it in another video if you're interested. And at the moment, I've just got like my favourite tripod, just because it's a bit more bit more heavy duty, and you can take it off like a selfie stick. I love that tripod, absolutely brilliant. It costs a bit more, but it was worth it. It's just, you could be so much more creative with it. As you can see here, I've got my other tripod. That's my old tripod, my first ever tripod with the other camera. And over here, I've got a tripod I do not like. For those of you that know me well, I don't like the way these sort of rank up and you have to sort of like turn it up or down. It's a real pain, if I'm honest. I just don't like it. And that's pretty much my setup. Obviously I've got loads of other gears and cameras, but this is pretty much my setup tonight. So here's behind the scenes. So hope you got a bit of value from that, just something a bit different. If you'd like me to do more stuff like that, by all means. And also I've got my little chair here with my notes and my camera and little things I'm holding. Just stuff like that. So there you go. So let's bring it to value. Let's bring it down here. Let's bring you back to Cam 1. Anyway, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. Just something a bit different. Again, if you've got any questions, I'm just going to briefly check the tab. Awesome. If you've got value from today's video, I'm Dave from TVR Creators, and I make weekly YouTube tips to help you build your brand. If that sounds interesting to you, subscribe now and smash that like button if you've got value. Have a great weekend. And as always, guys,